It's been a very long day. I know that we've been listening to many good speakers. There's been a lot of information. Some of you have been jumping from different subjects on architecture and engineering, BI, generative AI. We had panels. We have a lot of sessions. We're probably tired. However, it's the end of the day. This session, I would say, is very fresh. I think that everybody is going to feel connected to it. So I'm going to start. So I'm going to talk about transforming complex data into insight and compelling business narratives. So pretty much storytelling with data. And I forgot this. OK. So I'm going to start by asking you if this sounds familiar. You're working the technical part or in the business, but in analytics, you do some amazing work, you generate some insight, you go and present to business stakeholders or the decision makers, and then nothing is done. And it could happen that they like it, and they're like, have good feedback, like, oh, was very nice. But then, you feel that they should change the way they are doing things, but it doesn't happen, or maybe they're like, oh, we knew, or like, I don't know. So the question is, what is that? So it had happened to me. So I'm going to tell you a story. When I came, I was working in a financial institution that had two lines of business, had insurance and have wealth. And I created an analysis. I was working as a data scientist at the time. And I came back very excited with my insights. And I was like, well, the first one was maybe very obvious. That is like when a client have both line of business, was not just more valuable, but they had way less churn, which maybe is very obvious that would happen, but the magnitude, it was important and considerate, and it's like maybe a new piece of information. But the other two were very interesting, which one was that when a client would start with wealth, it was easier to then get insurance, versus when the person would start with insurance, it had less possibilities or less probability to also get wealth and then be this amazing client that you want that is with two products. Another piece, very important piece of information was that the clients that have the two products, the higher probability of this to happen was sort of like in the first year, then less in the second, less in the third, in the fourth. So it was like a exponential going down with the time. So it was very important that you would do it early when you connect with the client, and then you would develop that client early. And why I'm telling you this and why it's important, because when I presented, then it's like nothing happened. And I was a little bit frustrated. I talked to a VP, and part of what she said was like, well, maybe it's because we knew this. It's nothing new, and I was like, well, like I had a good relationship, so I had the possibility to say, well, that's sort of the definition of crazy. Because if I think about our operation, the advisors start in insurance, and they actually spend years only in insurance, and then they start knowing about wealth. So you have a lot of more advisors doing insurance that doing both or doing wealth. And also because they start in insurance, they feel more confident and more comfortable in insurance. So maybe they will offer it first. So it's against the second thing that I provided. But also, they had a specific campaign, and they were putting a lot of effort on dormant clients that had 10 years since the last time that they had a product. So if we think about the third insight, which is like you have to do it quick. You have to get the client and develop the client quickly, but then they're putting the effort 10 years later. So for me, it was like, well, definitely I didn't hit the mark here. I had very good insight, but then it's like I fell short somehow on making a story that was compelling, and they would take it in order to take action. So I got very obsessed, and I read a lot of books, and I was watching a lot of TEDs, and I'm gonna, like I did a collage of different things that are gonna help you, as it helped me, to be better at that, and to get actions once you do a good work in terms of good insights. All right, so all of the books, everything says that everything starts with the audience. So here is something or some points that I get you about the audience. So you have to know your audience, and one thing is you need to understand the level of interest and the level of influence. So sometimes you have an audience that have a lot of interest and a lot of influence, and that's the best audience you can have. You gotta be happy about that. Anyway, you gotta concentrate on how you sell your insights. You have to focus about the story, but that's the best audience. Sometimes you have people that is very interested, but doesn't have that much influence. I would say that anyway, I would say it's valuable to go ahead and present to those audiences because it gives you confidence, it's fun for you, and also sometimes you have audiences that have a lot of influence, but they have no interest. And what is going to happen? That if you present to enough people that is interested, maybe some of those people start talking and talking, and some of them might have influence over the influencers. So then you might have a better chance to get somewhere if people around the table, even if are not the decision makers per se, have influence over the decision makers, and that's important. The other thing is you have to make clear your message. It's like, what is there for me? They need to understand that. It's not about you or what you care about, but it's what they care about, and it's what is relevant for them. And also you have to communicate in a way that they understand. I saw it in a panel today. Somebody was talking about tomato cans, and I have a similar story. When I came to this role that I have right now, it was a very difficult moment. They invested a lot in AI, but the data was broken, the models were not working, the business was not happy, and the trust was broken. I didn't know. I came and I was like, oh my God. So I was very scared, like for real. And then I have to build the whole data and all that, which also if you are, have been enough in this business is, that when you build data, it's not the final value per se. It's just an enabler of value. So it's difficult for people in the business to understand why, and also you already have data for reporting, why you have to build this, feature store and this data for AI. And first I started trying to explain, well, it has to be historized and the features, blah, blah, blah. It's not their language. So at some point, I was like, okay, I need to have a good story about this. And I created a story that was like, well, let's not say I'm going to create AI solutions, but let's say that I'm going to cook meals. Like if I don't have a feature store, it's like if I don't have a supermarket. Every time I'm going to cook a meal, I'm going to have to go put seeds on the ground. If I need beef, I need to raise a cow, and then I need to kill the cow, and I need to take it. And also, if I go to the supermarket and I need sirloin, I'm like, it's labeled, it's quality, it's cut, so I just take it. I don't even know where that comes from. I don't know where to cut. If I need to raise or like go fishing, also it's like where you had to go fishing. Would you get the salmon or the tilapia? Like when you have a strong data structure, data platform, is the whole benefits are everywhere. It's in terms of governance, in terms of labeling, in terms of documentation, in terms of quality. So then once I put it in a supermarket, they all were able to know that if you go to the supermarket, you get your products, you cooked your meal. Even if you invest some money in something that you cannot see the value, you will get the value to do the meals. And it helped me a lot, and it saved my life. Another thing that I learned with experience, I would create a presentation, and then I will get such a mixed messages in terms of the feedback. But then I realized that it was related to the audience. Depending on the audience, people will tell me very different things. So this is my, two sides of the story, or what I put it like. Sometimes your audience is technical. It's data scientists, for example, or data engineers. So data scientists or data engineers, technical people that are doing your job, then they will care about your journey. They will connect with what you do. So then, like, I thought about a pirate movie. In a pirate movie, if you think about it, it's about seeking treasure. But when in a pirate movie, you really see the details of the treasure? Never. Because it's not about the treasure. It's about the journey, right? It's like the battles and all this stuff. It's the same thing. When you're a technical audience, they want to know about the code and all the things and the data and the platform that you use. They want to know about your journey. And that's okay, and that's the story that you're going to build. You're not going to talk much about the treasure. But what happens when you're with a business stakeholder? They don't care about your journey. And it's not that they don't care, but they will not connect with you in that journey. So it's more about when Cristobal Columbus, for example, wanted to come to, well, not America, he wanted to go elsewhere, but he ended up here. But it's like what he did is like, okay, this is a business stakeholder. She needs to know that there is a treasure. There is, this is what we're going to find, and this is the plan. We have a map. So, and that's the way you need to build it for business stakeholders. You have a map, which is a plan, and then you have a treasure, and there's the details of the treasure. And it's very important that difference for when you have those two different audiences. Also, because we only have like 25 minutes today, I cannot talk about all the things that I read and all the things that I saw, but I'm going to leave you homework. So one of the homeworks, or the first one, is there is a TED video that is called How Your Brain Responds to Story versus Data. That is Karen Eber. An amazing video. You watch it, it's 15, 20 minutes. It's worth your time. And she have there a lot of frameworks, a lot of advice. She had beautiful stories, and I really like it. One of my favorite TEDs. And I'm just going to leave you with a framework that she has. So she puts this framework that she says, well, you have to have three things on a story. So you got to start with what's the problem you're solving. And this is important because I see it a lot, let's say, in my team. Like sometimes they start talking to me and showing me code and like these connections, all this stuff. And at some point I ask, like, I don't even know what project we're talking about. It's like, give me context of where we are. Like, what's the problem or the project and the problem that we're solving with this, so I can actually sort of like see it better, right? Then is what do you want people to feel and think differently. And I want to put emphasis on feelings because even like if we think that we're very rational, we take decisions based on feelings. So, and also, when you talk to an audience, people is going to remember better how they felt or how you make them feel rather than numbers or graphs or things. So feeling is very important. What do you want them to feel? And then, what do you want people to do differently at the end? And this is something that's going to be repeated on this session a lot, which is, I want you guys to work hard and think that the lazy person is the person in the other end. What like in this case is, you can do your presentation, but don't leave open what is it that you want them to do. It's like, is it obvious for them and they have to think on what they have to do? Like try to put, even, like options or what you want them to do. So like every time you help the person to take decisions and make it easier for them, you're going to help them. Like, I don't know if it's said to say that the people in the other end is lazy or say that they're very busy and very tired. However, it helps when we help them, when we give them like more and more information. So for example, in this session, the problem is that sometimes we do work, technical work, we have good insight that would help people to take great decisions, and nothing happened. I want you to feel that the problem is that sometimes we put the effort only in the technical part and in that portion of the job, and we're not putting enough effort on the story. We're not putting enough effort on the selling. What is it that we want them to do? And what I want you to do different is to put more emphasis on that part, is to learn and to see on those tricks and then put it in your day-to-day and then do a job like that. She also said that you have the option to talk about the data itself, or you can get out of in another context that is more familiar to the person. And it's, for example, what I did with the supermarket, if I got to provide an example. Second homework that I have for you, it's a book called Storytelling with Data. There is several books that have sort of similar names. So I didn't put the author here, but if you want to know the author, like maybe outside, you can ask me, and I'll search in Amazon. I'll tell you which is the correct one. But it's a book that I love. It's written by an ex-Google that she had a lot of experience in data visualization, and she had wonderful advice, right? So the first thing that I remember is that she said something like, even if you have to open 100 oysters to get a pearl, don't focus on the 100 oysters. Talk about the pearl. And it sounds like obvious, but I'm going to tell you this. I did the job, and every time I had to open 100 oysters, I wanted to talk about the 100 oysters because I wanted to know that it was difficult. I wanted everybody to know how much effort I put. But really, like what happened is that you're diluting the importance of the pearl. So then, if you're talking about all the oysters, people like might disconnect, take the phone. Now we're very distracted with everything that is going on, and then they don't hear about the pearl. So talk directly about the pearl. And maybe, if you're in a technical, you can go in the journey of the oysters, like the pirate movie. But if you're talking about the decision makers, make it about the pearl. Also, in this book, there is a framework of 7 principles. And I really recommend the book because if you like a book that tells you precisely what to do, this is a book that is very short, is not decorated with pages and pages of text, but it's like very straightforward, and it tells you what to do. So the 7 principles it starts with the same thing as everything as I said, is the importance of context is about who's your audience, right? Then talks about choosing the right visualization. It gives a lot of recommendations on, depending on what you're trying to describe, there are different designs that works better than others. Clutter is your enemy is like, and this happens not just in visualizations, but also when you are talking or any subject. The more things that you include, the more diluted that the message gets. So you have to really choose what is important, and you keep the important. You don't put things that are not important, because then you dilute the importance. So it's the clutter is your enemy is reducing things that are not needed. 4, 5, and 6 are techniques that are about design and how to bring the attention to the right place with bold, with colors, with lines that are thicker than others. So and here also something I really learned with the book is like getting out of the default of what a graph provides. Typically we put a graph together, it's very default, and we think that we're like, there's nothing else to do. But actually, we can take that graph out of context. PowerPoint is a very good tool for that, because then you can put text everywhere, colors, and like you can make it a little bit more friendly to understand. And I'm going to show some examples. And then 7 is about storytelling. So what we're going to see now is several examples that I extracted from the book that really show how impactful this can be. So always on the right, on the right, we have a graph that is very default, and it's the expression of you being lazy, of taking the default and saying, well, I had the data, I make this graph, and that's enough. And on the left, we have what she suggests. So if we look at this, we have ticket trend, and it's, there's the numbers, there's bars. If you need to see the colors, you need to go to the legend and then go back and say, red is this, blue is this. But if I tell anybody here, what is it that I want my client to see in this graph, you will spend 30 seconds, and you will get tired, and you will disengage. You will not know what is it, really, the important message that is there in that graph. There is no message, really, even if the data is the same that the one on the left. But on the left, she started by putting in the title immediately, what is it that you want? Please approve the hire of 2 FTEs to backfill those who quit on the past year. Then it's like, okay, ticket volume. She adds, in the y-axis, what is it that we're looking at those numbers. She removed the 0.00, that adds no value, remove the lines, remove a lot of numbers, and she changed it to a line. It's obvious to see that the line was together, and then in May, start creating a gap, and you see that there is the receipt and the proceeds, and say, 2 employees quit on May, and then from there, we cannot keep up with the volume. So anybody who sees this, if in the other you spend 30 seconds and you have nothing, in here with 10 seconds, you know what is it that I want you to do, you know why I want you to do that, and then it makes it easier for you as a person who is trying to provide an insight and is trying to get an action out of the insight. Here, in my perspective, if you don't get an action out of this, it's because the person doesn't care, right? But if the person cares a little bit, you'll get an action. Then this is another example. She really, really, really recommends not to use pie charts. Very difficult graph to read because of different factors. And also, mostly here, the person that created the 2 pie charts is trying to create a comparison. Very difficult to get a comparison. You see that it's a survey result, and there's a how do you feel about science? Again, you have to go with the colors and understand like what the colors is what. You have to look at 2 pie charts, and then you will spend 30 seconds. You will not know what is going on, and then you will disengage. What happened if we look at the one in the left? Is pilot program was successful. So how do you feel about science? And then you see that before, in gray, it's more concentrated towards the middle, which is okay. But then after, which is in blue, and you can see that she used different shades of blue and put like a thicker blue on the right, which is like after the program, more children were kind of interested or excited about science. So you look at it and you see why I want you to see it, why I think that it was successful. It's very easy. 10 seconds and you're good. This example is maybe less powerful. The graph on the right is already good. It shows a line. It shows like the components is all good. However, here I think that the important component is that it has data. But then also you can talk to the business. And once you see that line that is going up and down and it's flat, maybe if you go talk to the business and understand in real life, so out of the database, what is it that the company was doing? And it's like, well, we have this campaign, and here we were not investing in marketing, so it's flat, and then here we started another campaign or another program. Then if you add that information, people is gonna really recognize it. People is gonna be like, oh, okay, so this created this created that, and then, you know, with a little bit of extra work, again, don't be lazy. You are the one who's working hard. You can make them, like if they're tired or they're lazy, they can really appreciate you because you're making their day much, much easier. To finalize, there is the last homework, which is like if you have Coursera, when I was in COVID, I did a ton of Coursera's. A lot technical, but I also did this one that is from Northwestern University. It was about leadership and communication and marketing. It was a certificate, but it had a portion of leadership and storytelling, and they had this framework to communicate a story, which I really liked, right? So in their framework, they say you start with a headline. Then the next thing you provide is the why, which is the background of the problem and the opportunity for the solution. Then you can provide several hows or how you're gonna fix it, and then at the end the payoff. This is one of the frameworks, right? So for example, they put the one example, which is a new kind, like a person trying to sell investors a new type of dry eraser. So it says, well, the problem is that when you come in your company and you're gonna write in a whiteboard, you take the dry eraser and they never work, right? Like, but people put it back. So the opportunity is to have a marker that always works. So how to solve is to put a sensor in the marker and a little thing that sends a message, like I'm toast or I'm empty or whatever, and then a little canister where when the message goes, you put it there so it's not back in like it's working, but you put it in a specific place that is obvious that this one doesn't work. So then the people who cleans or have the, to do the work of changing it, take it and put a new one. So then the payoff is that people who are in the company will always find the markers who work, and the people who sells the market always, will have a better rotation of the marker because, it's easier to look that the marker is already toast or is already empty, so then they will change it. And I tried to make it short and easy because it's the end of the day. I hope you guys liked it. So if you have any questions, like I'm still having 5 minutes. Like I did it much faster than last night. I'm so proud. I don't know if I forgot something. So any questions?
Thank you very much. It may be kind of off topic, but in your experience, do you have any insights how to deal with the silos? Organizations, people like work in the silos, and it's very, very bad for analytics. Any insight how to deal with this?
Okay, working with silos? Well, I would say patient. Like I live it every day, in every company happens. And something that works for me is try to be nice. Like I try to connect with people, then I start working with them. And I really try hard to understand their point of view. I try to see the good side of them, and then I try to tell them. Like if you talk to people who work with me, they know that I am very optimistic and I typically try to give good feedback, as well as people in silos, they tend to have fear of like working together and then one person take the credit. That's the most common human feeling in the world. So if you are working with people and then every time you talk, you mention them and you say, oh my God, it was amazing working with them. I don't want you to forget that I worked with them. It's going to help. And then they're going to feel better working with you. And the next time, they're going to want to work with you. And then other people who are not working with you but saw that, they will want to work with you. So I would say, the first time is the most difficult. But once you start, and once you start giving that to people, so you give and you give and you give, then it start being easier and people just start opening up. It was a great question. Thank you. Is there any other question in the room?
Do you have any tips or tricks to kind of get that light bulb moment in your data analysts, the folks that are working on storytelling with data and creating those visualizations? I mean, from my experience, they really enjoy analyzing data, writing SQL, Python, doing all the work. And what I find is they spend 2 weeks on that, and then you say, okay, time for the presentation, the visualization, and they say, that's the easy part, right? It's 5 minutes, it'll be really quick. But no, it's just as much time you spent on that other work you need to spend on the presentation and visualization. But just any tips on how to get that light bulb with them to realize how much effort is needed to really tell a powerful story with data?
For sure. Well, first, I would say practice, practice, practice. The first time is going to be very hard. The second time is going to be less hard. And that's, it's a skill, it's a muscle that you need to build. And even, like, when you spend some time without creating presentations, and then you have to create one, like, you have to really, go back and exercise that muscle of how to make the visualization better, and not just charts, but in general, a presentation, how you build your story. And building your story is very, very important. And those elements that I show is important to have them fresh. And then when you're stuck, try to think on those framework and say, well, okay, what's my problem? What is it that I want them to feel different? What is it that I want them to do? Or the framework about the marker. So then, like, once you have those framework, you can put it in place. And then practice, practice, practice. Also, there is a book that is called When from Dan Pink, and he says that depending on the job that you're doing, it's better to do it in the morning or in the afternoon because your brain works differently. And in the book, he says that if you're a morning person, for some reason, presentations is easier in the afternoon. I don't know if it's true, like maybe, but it's what the book says. We have 1 minute, 30 seconds. This is your chance. Oh, there is one question.
Thank you for the great presentation. So my name is Helena, and my question is, after the presentation is done, how do you follow up with the executive, like without being too pushy, like on the next step actions?
How I deal with being too pushy?
Yeah, like what is the strategy to follow up with them and then make sure that the next step action is well taken care of?
That's a tough one. Well, again, you have to build a network of supporters. Many times decisions are taken in a level that is people that is very busy, that you might see very once in a while. They don't really know you. They might not trust you. So what you can do is understand what's the network around that person. And you need to, maybe with those people that are a little bit, lower in the organization, you will have more time. It's easier to build a relationship. It's easy to build some sort of trust. And then because they have more time with that person, that will help, because maybe they can be ambassadors of what you're trying to do. So also it's like identifying who is the person. If you did some work and you're improving something in the company, there is going to be a person who really feel it, right? There is going to be a person who is the really affected positively with this. So that person have to be your sponsor, and that person you need to convince, and then for that person to help you, like open the doors to do the changes that you need to do. We have 30 seconds, so I don't know if we can have another question or. All right, so because I'm presenting, I don't know if I should thank myself. But thank you, guys. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience.